Welcome back to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Shawcross, and the things that big companies do almost always astounds me, but almost never for good reasons. And Casio is doing one of those type of moves right now. Many of you may know and have heard of the Casio PX-S3000, and I'll give you a basic recap later on in this video if you're unfamiliar with these products, but as a very brief recap right now, sometime last year, Casio came out with the PX-S3000 and the PX-S1100, which were fundamentally flawed products. I made several videos about the flaws and things of that nature. And as of right now, I think it was about the summer of 2021, Casio announced the release of two new products, a revision of the PX-S3000 and the PX-S1100. And at first that sounds awesome until you look under the surface, and this is where I cannot believe Casio has done this. What it appears to me, and I have very good reason to believe this, we'll look at Casio's website and the spec sheet for these products later on in the video. It appears to me that Casio has taken the PX-S3000, changed the name, and I think they have edited some of the Bluetooth features and the sounds, but that's it. They've taken the PX-S3000, put a slightly different name badge on it, and is remarketing it. Yeah. They're now calling it the PX-S3100 and its little brother, the 1100. And it's the exact same thing. It uses the exact same action, the exact same form factor, which we'll talk about in a second, the exact same everything, which is insane. Now, there's different ways that a company can handle the release of a bad product. Let's be honest. No one is perfect, and every company at some point is going to release a flawed product. It just happens. But one way to determine the quality of a company is how they handle the release of a bad product. If a company comes out and says, hey, we made a bad product, let's fix this, let's make it right, it won't happen again, and it doesn't happen again, that's a good sign. But if a company basically says, so, we don't care, give us money, that is bad. And in my opinion, that's pretty much what Casio is doing right here. They've taken a flawed product that earlier, before I came out with my videos, I know it was selling well. It was pretty revolutionary to have a fully weighted 88-key instrument that's this compact. And so they've taken a product that the core idea of is very nice, and however is fundamentally flawed, and they probably know it's fundamentally flawed. I've made videos about it, and they've acknowledged the existence of this flaw. And we'll talk about that later on in the video too. And they basically said, yeah, we just want to get more sales. Let's rebrand it and continue on and change nothing about it, which is insane. I also have pretty good reason to believe that Casio may be marketing this product towards Apple users specifically. And if that is true, Casio has missed 50% of what makes an Apple user an Apple user. What makes an Apple user an Apple user? Well, obviously they buy Apple products, but the reason they would buy an Apple product is for probably two reasons: the form factor and the performance. Apple products have been known from the very beginning, especially when Steve Jobs is involved with the company, to have these beautiful products that look amazing and are revolutionary, but also are really high performance. Especially these days, the new Mac computers and the new iPhones are really, really powerful and look really great. So I think the reason Casio may be marketing this towards Apple users is because they realize that Apple users are all about the form factor. They want that slimness. They want that beautiful styling. But what Casio is missing is that Apple users also want performance. That's why these things are priced so high. They're well made with metal and glass, and also they work well. They're high performance. The PX-S3000 and the PX-S3100, unless Casio revamps this and changes the action before it's released, they are not high performance products. They're heavily flawed products. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Let's talk about the action. Let's give you guys a recap if you've missed the whole debacle with the PX-S3000 before. So we'll talk about the issue, we'll talk about why it's such a big deal and why I'm making such a big deal about the action in this keyboard. And we'll also give you a really interesting parallel to another company that is not even in the music industry, and it's not actually Apple. I referenced them, but it's the company I'm going to be talking about is not them, but they are in a similar field to Apple. And I think that that company has had a very interesting turn of events that closely mirrors what's happening with Casio. And we'll talk more about that later on in the video. I find it to be a really fascinating parallel. Let's dive into this. In a sense, this video was brought to you by two of my followers, John Smith and Lei An, and you can see a screenshot here of their comment. Both of them left a comment asking me to review the PX-S1100. I initially responded to John Smith saying, nah, I won't, but actually it turned out to be interesting enough that I decided to make a video on it anyway. Thank you, John Smith. Thank you, Lei An. onwards with the video. First, here we are on the product page for the Casio PX-S3100. And we can take a look here at the product page itself. You can see the usual, marketing stuff, all that. But if we come up here to the specification sheet, this is where things get interesting. The key action of the brand new PX-S3100 is, according to Casio, the smart scaled hammer action keyboard. Now, if we go to CasioMusicGear.com and we look at the article they have for the PX-S3000, the old version, we can come down here and take a look and see that older instrument used the same action, the smart scaled hammer action keyboard, right? See that there, and we go back to 3100, smart scaled hammer action keyboard. That's very interesting. If we come over here to the PX-S1100 spec page, which we can look at here, you got your usual marketing stuff, all that. We can go to the spec sheet again and see that once again for the 1100 we have the smart scaled hammer action keyboard. The old 3000 and the old 1000 both used the exact same action, as did a number of other Casio products. I think some of the CDP products did. And the PX-S1000, if we go to the Music Gear site, and we scroll down here to their spec sheet, uses the smart scaled hammer action keyboard. So we have the old 1000 with the smart scaled hammer action, the new 1100 with the smart scaled hammer action, the old 3000 with the smart scaled hammer action, and the 3100, the upcoming model, all using the smart scaled hammer action keyboard. This was the key bed that I reviewed some time ago that I found to be critically flawed, in which the black keys were several grams lighter than the white keys. And that alone is just an absolutely terrible no-no. In no real acoustic piano that's regulated to any quality at all, nor any digital piano that is of any quality whatsoever, will you find the black keys to be consistently lighter than the white keys. Although if you read on their spec sheet, and I'll bet you will see this, let's look at the 3100 here. They might say it on the 3000 as well. The delicate expressive touch of a grand piano. There it is. On no grand piano ever, Casio, will you find the black keys to be several grams lighter than the white keys. So what I did in my older video was I took a set of gram weights, which is a professional tool used by professional piano regulators. If you went to Steinway, or you went to Fazioli, or you went to really any piano company worth their salt, in the regulation department, there probably would be a set of gram weights sitting around somewhere for the regulators to use. If you hired a piano technician to come to your house to regulate the weight of your piano's action, they more than likely would have a set of gram weights in their toolkit. It's a very professional tool. So I used the set of gram weights on the PX-S3000 to indicate to the viewers, to prove scientifically that the white keys were in fact heavier than the black keys. The black keys were a few grams lighter than the white keys all across the register of the instrument, and this is not something you would see in a real piano or any other digital piano that is of any kind of quality at all. Kawai, Yamaha, anything else, you're not going to see this. Now, then Casio released a rebuttal video, not really a proper video, it was a live stream that at this point has about 6,000 views, talking about the action, because a viewer on that live stream actually posed the question of what's going on here with the action weight, and basically Casio, in my opinion, kind of gave them the answer of it doesn't exist. They didn't say those words. I'll show you some little clips here from the live stream, but that's, in my opinion, kind of what they were hinting at. I wanted to take a quick moment here to talk about some of the things that these two guys talk about in their live stream. I've already discussed this once before on the channel, but I wanted to go over it quickly again, not only because this ties into the rest of what we've already talked about today, but because a lot of the things being said in this live stream and many of the events that have happened with this Casio drama are very reminiscent to me of another controversy happening right now in a completely different industry. And so that, I think, is an interesting tie-in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The link to my original breakdown of this live stream will be in this video's description, so if you want to see more in-depth details about this Casio debacle, go check that out. It might be interesting if you haven't seen it already, but let's dive into this here. Rich, the main guy here, is going to be replying to Jesse San Nicholas over here in the chat about his question regarding the critical flawed action of the black keys.
Jesse, we know what you're referring to there.
The first thing I wanted to talk about here is that both Rich as well as the guy in the corner, who we'll see in a little bit here, both of them are very vague when referencing my video. They never reference me by name. Neither did Jesse, to be fair, but neither Rich nor Mike reference me or my channel by name, which I think is kind of interesting, and that ties into some of the other stuff coming up in the video.
That's not something that we can really talk about without divulging too much of the internal design of the instrument. So that test is not an accurate representation of how a Privia feels to play.
Now, I just wanted to mention this here. As you can see, he says that the test I did is not an accurate representation of what a Privia feels to play, and we'll come back to that in a second. Let's just continue watching on real quick.
A PX-S1000 and 3000, they're some of the best feeling digital pianos in the world. You cannot just put a weight only on the very end of a key and judge the way it feels by that.
In my opinion, it kind of feels like Casio here is taking the issue away from the instrument itself and placing it on the test that I did. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. They're not saying that our product is flawed, they're saying that the test is flawed, when in fact the test is not flawed. As I've already mentioned twice before on this channel, including this video, and I'll say it again a third time, the gram weight test that I did in that video is something that professional piano technicians use. If it's not good enough for, if it's good enough for a piano technician, why is it not good enough for the Casio Privia model? Let's continue on here.
Go by reviews. Go by what people are actually saying.
Once again, that kind of seems to me like taking the focus of the argument away from the product. To me, that's what it seems like, and kind of pushing it on creators like myself.
I know what video you're referring to, and that's...
Here's more of that vagueness that I was talking about earlier in the video.
Exactly the way to put it, because no one plays the piano just with their finger at the edge of a key, and unless you're dealing with something with the full length of a grand piano,
right,
such as our grand hybrid piano, every portable digital piano has a sacrifice in some way.
Now, I wanted to talk quickly about this because Mike Martin in the corner says every digital piano has a sacrifice in some way. But if you go to the Casio website, this is the old site regarding the PX-S3100 here. If you read what Casio says about the action here, which I think is here, the perfect touch. The smart-scaled hammer action keyboard delivers an authentic and uncompromising piano touch. Interesting.
And measuring just in one part of the key isn't going to truly represent the way it feels when you're playing it.
Again, piano technicians do put the weight in one particular part of the key to measure the down weight, measure the up weight of the key, and by measuring the weight of the key, they can, in essence, tell how the key is going to play and perform.
So,
yeah, Jesse, nothing was overlooked. The action is not flawed at all. We're incredibly proud of the response that we get from the Privia PX-S1000 and 3000, and just about everybody who reviews it is happy with it too.
Now that we've kind of had a recap of the sequence of events leading up to the existence of the Casio PX-S3100 and its little brother, the PX-S1100, I wanted to talk about why I consider this flaw with the action to be such a big deal. Why is it so important? This bug, this issue, this flaw, and if Casio doesn't want to call it a flaw, then let's start calling it a feature, I suppose, because it is a feature, a bad one, but a feature. This feature of the PX-S3000, the PX-S1000, and anything else that uses this smart scaled hammer action keyboard, it's such a big deal because, in my opinion, it's a hindrance to beginning piano students. And I don't think you have to be a classically trained pianist with a degree in classical piano training to understand this problem, to identify this problem. When I first sat down at the PX-3000 a year ago, one of the first things I played was just a simple pop chord progression, and I demoed this before. I played an A major chord, just rolling the chord gently, softly, like a beginning piano student might. Just sit down and play, okay, let's play an A major chord. Say, for example, the beginning to Someone Like You by Adele, that exact chord, played in that exact same way. if you try to do that gently, lightly, like it's played on the record on the PX-S3000, anything else that uses the action as well, you'll immediately notice that your C sharp just comes out really loud, and it's very difficult to control the volume of that C sharp. And in addition, your timing becomes all wonky as well, because that particular key needs less time to react than the A and the E on either side of it, because those two notes are heavier. So your C sharp comes in a little bit louder and a little bit too early. And I feel like if you're a beginning piano student learning to play the piano and you want to play your favorite pop tunes along with the record, or you want to just learn how to do things, you just want to play a certain song, you're going to run into these issues with your dynamics, with your expression, with your tone, that you wouldn't find if you bought practically any other instrument under the sun. And that's why I think this is such a big deal. In addition, let's say a piano student purchases the PX-S3100 and then decides sometime later down the road, as they should, that they want to upgrade to something else, say a Yamaha P515. They get that instrument and then they realize that their knowledge of how to play the piano is fundamentally flawed because of the flaws found in the PX-S3100. That, I think, would be a very reasonable turn of events that could, in theory, happen. That is another reason why this flaw is such a big deal. And finally, this flaw could possibly be such a big deal to some people that they may pick up an instrument like this, perhaps one of the more affordable models that uses the same action. They pick up the piano, they bring it home, they start learning piano through whatever method they choose, online videos, a friend, a teacher, whatever, and they run into these issues that I've already mentioned with timing and with dynamics, and they assume that it's them, that they are the bad pianist, that they have no hope of ever playing the piano well, and they give up on the hobby that could eventually become a wonderful art and career for them. That, I think, is also a possible turn of events that could, in theory, happen thanks to this action flaw in the PX-S3100. That is why I find this issue to be such a big deal and such a problem. So, with that out of the way, I wanted to relate all of this to a really interesting debacle that's happening right now in the world of custom-built computers. There is a brand called GIGABYTE, and if you go on YouTube and you start typing in the word GIGABYTE, GIGABYTE, and then start typing in the word power supply, maybe you can just do the abbreviation PSU. The first thing that comes up is GIGABYTE PSU blowing up. If you click on that, you come up to these bunch of interesting videos that we will talk about. And yes, this has something in common with the Casio issue. GIGABYTE is a company that makes computer components, namely power supplies, graphics cards, and motherboards and other such things. And they came out with this product that has a significant flaw. I think it's the P750 GM and the P850 as well. They have a problem where they explode, as you can see. So what GIGABYTE ended up doing was, through an online retailer called Newegg, as the top video here, the title of it would lead you to, would indicate, they basically dumped the unsellable product. As of right now, graphics cards are difficult to get. So Newegg ran this kind of, they had this raffle kind of a thing where they called it the Newegg Shuffle. And if you bought I forget exactly how it worked, but they bundled together graphics cards and these particular power supplies to someone who might be looking to build a computer for themselves. These power supplies, however, have a tendency to blow up, and that's not good. Now, any self-respecting company, you'd think, would say, oh, this is a problem. Let's fix it immediately. Let's help our consumers. But GIGABYTE didn't do this. And Gamers Nexus, the guy who runs it, Steve, has a phenomenal video here talking about the GIGABYTE issues. He's got a whole series of events on about these videos. And this video, I think, has some interesting parallels to the issue we're seeing with Casio. And already we are seeing some similarities, right? You have a company. Said company creates products. Said company creates a product that happens to have some flaws. People realize that said company has a flawed product and informs them of it. And then the company's reaction to the flawed product is where things really start to take an interesting turn here. Let's see what Steve has to say here about GIGABYTE's response to their power supplies here, and we'll listen to him speak a little bit, and then I'll come back in with my own thoughts, and we'll talk about how this ties in with Casio.
Let's see what GIGABYTE had to say and go through this together. GIGABYTE starts off by saying, quote, GIGABYTE is aware of certain media outfits casting doubt over the quality of the power supply models GPP850GM and GPP750GM. Do tell, GIGABYTE, Who is it? Who's the certain media outfits? Is it me? Are you afraid to say my name?
Now, if you remember, and I love this guy, he has such a good channel. If you're interested at all in computers, definitely go check him out after this video. Does that already seem mildly similar to what Casio did in their video? They didn't mention me by name. Just a small little thing, but it's an interesting parallel that we have, in this case, Gamers Nexus and Steve reviewing and reporting on a flawed product to the company, who then comes out with a rebuttal and doesn't mention him by name. Already, we have some interesting parallels. There's some more interesting stuff here as well. If I skip around to the timestamp in his video, and like I said, go watch the full thing, it's fascinating. Around 11 minutes in, 11:50 I think, we got some more interesting stuff here. Let's check this out.
It's not supposed to explode after OPP trips once, by the way. Don't let Gigabyte gaslight you into thinking that. It's a protection. It's not supposed to just work one time and then kaboom, the whole thing blows up. That wouldn't make any sense.
In my opinion, having the black keys of an instrument all be significantly lighter than the white keys doesn't make any sense. And we can get a good indication of this by, as I've said before, almost no other product having such a issue or a feature, if Casio wants to kind of indicate that they think of it that way. So that again is another interesting parallel. Let's look more into this. This is so interesting, right? Let's skip around here to 1420 in his video and check out what he says here.
We feel like Gigabyte is now trying to disparage us and lead people to think that our testing was different than it was in a way which would benefit Gigabyte if people held that belief.
Now, I am skipping over some interesting things in this video because it gets very in-depth and technical about computer power supplies, and that's not what my channel is about. So I just wanted to stick to the meat and potatoes here. But in this video, Steve talks in great detail about how Gigabyte takes his testing and, in a sense, twists it to appear that his testing is not valid, that his test does not accurately represent what the power supply is supposed to be doing. And is that not, in a sense, what Casio is also doing? In their video, they directly stated that they felt my test with the gram weights is not representative of what their Privia action can do, what it's all about. And I find that to be very, very fascinating, that there's these interesting parallels in these companies here, in completely unrelated industries, but the sequence of events and the company's response to a reviewer, in my case, myself, in this case, Steve here, and their response to the review is, in both cases, eerily similar. I find that to be really, really fascinating. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this very odd video of mine covering the Casio PX-S3100 and its little brother, the PX-S1100. When they come out, if they come out, like I said, actually I haven't said it in this video, on Casio International's website, there is no purchase option for actually any product on here that I'm seeing. I looked at the old S3000 and S1000 that they have on here as well, and there's no purchase link. On their main website you can buy them here, but on their global site you can't purchase them. So whether or not these instruments are for sale in another country, whether they will be for sale here in the United States, is unknown to me. If they do come out, I don't think I'll be purchasing a 3100. I don't think there's any need to. It would be interesting if there's enough demand, maybe I will, but it'll probably be around the same price point as the 3000. And there is only so much money going around here, and I would be, I think, a little bit more interested in buying something that would be completely new to the channel, not basically the same thing over again. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this interesting video. I hope you found it fascinating. If you found the comparison here to Gigabyte's testing and all that, definitely go check out Gamers Nexus. Really cool channel, completely unrelated to music, but you might like it if you're into computers. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I've said, if you liked this video, you might want to check out my channel as well. I do lots of cool reviews of digital pianos, acoustic pianos, and occasionally odd things like this. So I really hope you all enjoyed. If you did, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.